Millionaire walks in to find stepmom attacking daughter at 3 a.m. What happens next is shocking. The midnight streets lay swallowed by darkness, a stillness so thick it felt suffocating. But inside the luxurious mansion at the heart of it all, chaos erupted like a thunderstorm. A figure loomed in the hallway, her long, shadowy silhouette twisting under the flickering light. The sound of muffled cries pierced the air, raw fear escaping from a trembling throat. It was the unthinkable, a nightmare unfolding, one that would haunt their very souls. Inside the sprawling home, the opulence contrasted sharply with the terror brewing within. Expensive art hung on the walls, their faces forever frozen in painted expressions, blissfully unaware of the horror that took place beneath them. The lavish marble floors echoed with each hurried step. Just moments before, all had been serene, a sleepy bliss bathed in the warmth of family. But now? Now it was a twisted tableau of betrayal and violence. The daughter had always felt it, a tension slicing through their seemingly perfect life. Her stepmom, whoever she was on the outside, had shadows dancing behind her eyes that spoke of ancient grudges and simmering resentment. But tonight, those shadows morphed into something feral. The girl's pleas morphed into desperate gasps. What was it that pushed a mother figure to such extremes? The warmth she once offered turned icy, her hands raised in wrath rather than love. Overwhelmed, the millionaire burst through the door, heart racing, mind screaming. Nothing prepared him for the sight that met him: a mother consumed by rage, a daughter clawing for air, her wide eyes pleading for rescue. What had happened? The weight of their connections hung heavy in the air, a suffocating silence layered over shock. He stood frozen, feeling his chest tighten like a vice, breath hitching painfully in his throat. Just then, a crash echoed from the kitchen, a secondary pandemonium breaching the fragile tension. What the hell is going on? He shouted, panic twisting his insides. The reality shocked him like ice water against his skin, forcing his heart to race faster. Would he have to choose between loyalty and that primal instinct to protect? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The daughter, struggling beneath the weight of betrayal and looming dread, gasped out an incoherent word, her face a mixture of horror and disbelief. To the millionaire standing wide-eyed at the threshold, a haunting question flickered in his mind. How could the woman he trusted, the one who stood by him through thick and thin, turn into a monstrous shadow of anger in an instant? The air felt thick with grief, tangled with simmering fury and fear. He needed to act. But the girl's cry echoed in his soul, digging nail-deep into the raw space of his heart. What would he do next? Would he confront the stepmom, or would he falter in the grips of disbelief? Every tick of the clock heightened the urgency, yet time stood still as if fate held its breath. The millionaire's instincts kicked in just as the reality of the scene engulfed him. Get away from her! He shouted, his voice cracking the tension like glass shattering. The sharpness of his words cut through the chaos, momentarily freezing the figure in the doorway. The stepmom's head snapped around to confront him, her eyes wild and fierce, pupils dilated as if she were a predator caught in the headlights. In that heartbeat, time stretched infinitely. The daughter, bruised and gasping, used the distraction to twist away and scramble to a corner, her hands trembling at her side. What have you done? The millionaire stepped forward, his body taut with every muscle screaming for action. He didn't recognize this woman, the one who had promised to love his daughter since the day they wed. A parent must discipline. She hissed, voice low and dangerous, like distant thunder. There was no remorse, only a twisted conviction that riled him further. Her hands, still trembling from the earlier violence, reached back to wipe away the last remnants of her fury. The kitchen door swung open, revealing the source of the earlier crash. A butler, frazzled and pale, was standing there with eyes wide in disbelief. "Sir, you need to call the police," the millionaire barked, not taking his eyes off the stepmom. The situation spiraled beyond control, inching dangerously close to something no amount of money could cover. The butler nodded hastily, retreating to obey. Meanwhile, he could feel the tension rising, suffocating them all like thick fog. He turned, struggling to reconcile the woman he loved with the monster she had become. "This is too far. You're hurting her." "A hurting girl turns into a weak woman," she snarled, stepping closer, the shadows flickering along the walls as if they had life. "I'm doing what's best for her future." "You're too soft. What future do you think she has if you beat her?" His tone was raw, filled with urgency. It echoed off the marble walls, ricocheting straight into the chilling silence that had swept through the mansion. For a moment, disbelief held her still, but then a sneer curved her lips. "You don't understand." "Understand what?" He advanced, fists clenched at his sides, as panic and desperation surged within him. "What's broken inside you?" The doorbell rang like a death knell, and his heart raced. When the police arrived, would they see the truth, or was there something darker lurking beneath the surface? In a daring move, he positioned himself in front of his daughter protectively. "You're done. This ends tonight." "Oh, you think it's that simple?" She laughed, a sound that slithered unnervingly, spilling into the silence. "You don't know what I've sacrificed. You don't know the monsters waiting to devour us all." The millionaire felt his stomach drop. Sacrifices? Was she losing her mind, or was there something he truly didn't know? "Mom, please." The daughter cried, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." The stepmom's face twisted with rage, and for a brief second, fear flickered in her eyes. But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced with something colder, darker. "You'll regret this, all of you," she promised, voice a menacing growl. Suddenly, the mansion felt smaller, walls closing in around them. He glanced toward the kitchen, where he knew the butler was calling for help, but was it coming fast enough? The heartbeat of danger thumped in the air, an unspeakable truth unspooling just out of reach. He had to make a choice, one that could shatter everything he cared about. Could he save his daughter and uncover the truth behind his stepmom's madness? As sirens wailed in the distance, he felt a surge of hope and dread mingling. What lay on the other side of this confrontation? Would they emerge whole, or irrevocably shattered? The moment of reckoning was coming, and with it, the chilling question: was he prepared for the monstrous secrets that might yet be revealed? The sirens grew louder, slicing through the thick tension that enveloped the room. The millionaire felt as if time had paused, the world outside pushing forward while the inside of the mansion crumbled. His heart pounded in his chest, urging him to act, to make sense of the chaotic storm brewing before him. "Stop. Just, stop." His voice quaked, desperation clawing at each word. The stepmom's smile disappeared, replaced by something feral. "You think they can save you? They can't save you from what's inside these walls." She flicked her gaze toward the windows, shadows dancing across her face, twisting her features into a mask of fury. "Mom," the daughter whispered, her body trembling in the corner, shame mixing with fear. "I didn't mean to upset you. Upset me?" She laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the polished surfaces. "You've brought this upon yourself. Weakness is a disease." As she took a menacing step forward, the millionaire felt heat pooling in his stomach. It was the charge of adrenaline, the instinct to protect. He lunged, placing himself directly between his stepmom and his daughter, palms out, grounding himself in resolve. "Enough of this. You're done hiding behind your twisted ideas of discipline." But she didn't back down. Instead, she stood taller, fists balled at her sides. "Discipline is strength. You'll see when the true monsters come for her. I'm saving her from a world that preys on the weak. A noise from outside, scraping shoes on the driveway, gruff voices approaching. Relief washed over him, but it was quickly swept away by the shadow creeping over his stepmom's eyes. They'll never understand. Her voice was a growl, her form trembling with restrained rage. A sudden clarity gripped him. What kind of world do you think we live in? He gestured towards the door, the sirens climbing to a furious crescendo. Your world of sacrifice is twisted. You're wrong, and deep down, you know it. But her eyes flared like fire. You really don't know what you've taken from me. She shouted, her words laced with venom. You took everything that mattered, and now you want to keep her from her true destiny. I will do what it takes to protect her and myself. He felt it then, a realization of the lengths she might go to. His stomach churned, adrenaline shifting to a palpable fear. Nothing could stand between them now, a fight was brewing, and the police might arrive just in time to witness the aftermath. Hold on. He shouted, aiming to reach her, to pull her back from the edge of her madness. You're not a monster, you're just scared. But she only laughed. It was a sound so hollow and empty that it struck his core. Fear? Oh, I'm far beyond fear. I'm survival. You're too late, darling. You'll be the one who regrets this, and she will too. The daughter whimpered, her eyes widening in horror as if awakening to the truth of the woman before them. Please, let us just talk about this. At that moment, the front door burst open, and uniformed officers rushed in, commands barking, shining flashlights illuminating the dark corners of the kitchen. What is going on here? One officer shouted, eyeing the scene. The moment hung, teetering on the edge of chaos. This was the confrontation that would decide the fate of all of them. In that instant, he felt something crack deep within himself. Could he protect his daughter from the very person who should embrace her? The walls echoed with the weight of unsaid words, and he realized the truth might lay with the darkness he needed to face head-on. Mom, the daughter pleaded, tears cutting paths down her bruised cheeks. The millionaire turned to the officers, heart racing. Would they see the truth barely concealed beneath the chaos? Or would they fall for the facade, the monster dressed as a mother? And as the stepmom's eyes flared with defiance, whispers of something sinister began to seep into the air, dirty secrets lurking just out of sight. Would they escape the haunting legacy of dread? The shadows around him grew darker, hinting at answers waiting just beyond their grasps. Would they confront the lurking monsters together, or would they succumb to the tide of darkness rising within their walls? The officers moved in swiftly, tension thickening the air like fog. Flashlights danced on the polished floors, highlighting every anguished face in the room. The millionaire's chest tightened as he fought to suppress his mounting anxiety. Step back. One officer commanded, locking eyes with the stepmom, who stood unyielding, an ominous figure in the chaotic storm. What's happening here? Nothing at all, she shot back, eyes glinting defiantly. The fury mixed with her twisted sense of duty transformed her into someone almost unrecognizable. Ma'am, we need you to calm down, said another officer, approaching slowly, hands raised under the sharp beam of light. Let us talk. You're safe here. Safe? The word crashed through the millionaire's mind like thunder. This woman had twisted the very notion of safety. Do you see? She hissed to the officers, her voice dripping with venom. This is what weakness looks like. Her tears, they're nothing compared to the threat out there. She pointed at the door, as if the monsters awaited on the other side. Stop! Shouted the millionaire, panic surging. You're scaring her. They're here to help. He motioned to his daughter, who cowered against the counter, shaking uncontrollably. The officers exchanged glances, uninformed about the tangled drama unfolding before them. The situation veered dangerously towards an explosive cliff. Ma'am, we just want to know what your daughter means to you, one of them asked carefully. Everything, she cried, pain splintering through her resolve. She is all I have left. He felt the cracks in her facade, but they were quickly sealed with layers of rage. You're tearing her apart. He cried, desperation clawing at his throat. Can't you see that? A suffocating silence blanketed the room. The officers shifted uneasily, thinking how to resolve a situation that now felt like a live wire about to snap. I'll protect her. The stepmom suddenly screamed, her voice penetrating the stillness. I'll do what it takes. I'm all she has left. What do you mean? One officer pressed, trying to get to the heart of the matter. What have you done? Her laughter echoed chillingly, bouncing off the high ceilings. You think you can take her from me? You think I'm the problem? She stepped closer, and the shadows around her thickened. You have no idea what's coming. The world is ugly, and you need to prepare her for that. Mom, please, the daughter cried, pressing her hands against her ears as if she could block out the chaos. This isn't helping in that moment of raw despair. The millionaire seized the chance. No, this isn't how it should be. She deserves love. We all deserve love. He could feel the weight of the officers' gazes, assessing the suspicious dynamics at play. Their confusion only heightened the tension, and the sirens had finally stopped outside, yielding to a dreadful silence. But then a low laugh erupted from the stepmom, twisting through the fragile air like smoke. Love? What good is love when tragedy looms? You hide her away from a life of harsh realities. I prepare her. What kind of preparation is this? He shouted back, his voice rising with renewed fervor. Fear is not preparation. Crushing her spirit is not protection. The bedroom door creaked open, revealing a glimpse of movement. An unseen presence lurked just beyond. The tension snapped and crackled like a live wire, charging them all with adrenaline. Suddenly, the officers exchanged serious looks. One stepped forward, ready to place a hand on the stepmom's shoulder. Ma'am, we can't let this escalate any further. As she spun toward him, each second felt like an eternity, her expression sharpening to a knife's edge. You don't know who I really am, she spat. Around the corners, shadows flickered ominously. With each passing heartbeat, the battle began not just for a child's future, but for the revelation of deeper truths lurking in the fractured hearts of those present. Could they untangle the dark web, or would they all be ensnared by the horrors hidden within the walls of that mansion? Desperation knotted within him as the urgency of the moment pressed heavier. The question hung in the air, thick and choking: would they confront the demons, or would they be devoured by their own fears? The stepmom's fervor swept through the room, sending a chill that rattled everyone present. Her eyes, dark and glinted with conviction, bore into the officers as she took a step forward. You have no idea what I've done to keep her safe, she shouted, her voice breaking under the weight of her desperation. Let us not make this worse, one officer urged, his voice low yet steady, attempting to rein in the escalating tempest. But the words flew past her, ricocheting off her jagged facade. She lunged toward the daughter, eyes wild with maternal instinct and madness. You think they care about you? They don't know the darkness that lurks. Stop! He yelled, muscles coiling as instinct kicked in. If you care at all, you need to stand down. We're all just trying to help. The officer nearest him gripped his radio, tension pulsing in the air while the sirens outside felt like a distant nightmare. We need backup. He whispered urgently. The stepmom's laughter rang out again, this time more like a war cry. Help? You think I need help from a bunch of fools who can't even see the truth? She turned toward her daughter, her smile hollow and unhinged. I've kept you alive in a world on fire. The millionaire's heart pounded violently. He squeezed his eyes shut for a fleeting second, imagining a better time, a time when his daughter didn't wear fear as a second skin. Enough! He shouted. She shouldn't have to live like this. She deserves to be free. The stepmom paused, her laughter snuffed out by a sudden stillness. The realization slowly crept into her eyes, an inkling of doubt that perhaps her protection had morphed into a prison. But disbelief flashed across her features, hardening the moment once again. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from the hallway, knocking everyone off balance. The officers instinctively reached for their weapons, spinning toward the sound. The millionaire felt the air slam against him, pushing him like a tidal wave, every instinct telling him to shield his daughter. Stay close. He pressed against her, his heart racing. He caught a glimpse of movement on the edge of the doorframe. Mom? What was that? The daughter stammered, eyes wide. The stepmom turned, her previous bravado cracking. It's nothing, just the ghosts of your past, she hissed, gripping her daughter's arm tighter. Mom, you're hurting me, the girl whimpered, tears brimming in her eyes. The atmosphere shifted dramatically, the shadows, once merely flickering, now pulsated with life. The officers moved in unison, one stepping forward, flashlight aiming into the darkened hallway. Show yourself. An officer demanded, voice steady, even as chaos danced around them. Another bang echoed, louder and more insistent, as if something or someone was desperate to be let in, or perhaps trying to escape. The stepmom's face paled, but caught in a tangle of her emotions, she retreated only slightly. What have you done? She pleaded suddenly, scrambling to regain her lost power, eyes darting between the officers and her daughter. Who's out there? I don't know. The millionaire said, his own mind racing. But we need to find out. The tension thickened, a palpable weight that made it hard to breathe. Every putrid thought twisted in their minds, betrayal, fear, despair. Then, as if the universe chose that moment to reveal a cruel joke, the door creaked slowly open, inching toward fate, only silence met them. Was it just an echo of the world outside, or was there something lurking just out of view, waiting for an opportune moment to descend into chaos? Look out! One of the officers shouted as he stepped forward, but it was clear that no one was ready for what might come spilling through. The next moment would shift everything. What lay beyond the threshold? They were seconds away from uncovering a truth that could shatter their fragile reality. And as the air crackled with uncertainty, one question loomed larger than the rest: who or what had they let into their lives? The door swung open with a soft creak, revealing only more darkness behind it. The atmosphere crackled with tension, and all eyes darted between the threshold and the frantic expressions of the stepmom. The millionaire's heart raced, the pounding echoing like a war drum in his ears. Step back. An officer commanded, pointing his flashlight toward the opening. The beam cut through the gloom but showed nothing. Just the emptiness of the hallway, thick and foreboding. Every gasp filled the room, and the daughter gripped her father's arm, anchoring herself against him. Her breath quickened. Dad, what's out there? He wanted to reassure her, to say that everything was fine, but the words caught in his throat. The stepmom's eyes, wild and darting, told him this was anything but over. You don't understand, she whispered, almost to herself, the madness creeping back into her voice. You don't know the danger. Then came a noise, a soft scrape, like something dragging against the floor. The sound made the officer's muscles tighten. They took a cautious step forward, instinct screaming that whatever was waiting in the dark was not friendly. What the hell is that? One officer muttered, fixing his eyes on the shadowy void. I said, step back. He pressed forward, his flashlight piercing deeper into the blackness, but it did little to calm the unease swirling in the room. All they saw was the flicker of light along the walls, the shadows dancing menacingly. Another loud thud resonated, this time closer. It pulled at the nerves, a sickening reminder of what might be lurking just out of sight. The stepmom's demeanor shifted from defiance to dread, her bravado collapsing like a house of cards. Please, she pleaded, her voice trembling. You don't understand. It's not safe. I did what I had to do. The millionaire felt a chilling question percolating in his mind. What had she done? Why was the air thick with an inexplicable dread? The officers exchanged nervous glances. The girl, now pulling against her mother's grip, finally voiced her own fear. "Mom, stop. Please. Just let me go." A still moment lingered before the darkness shifted again. Something stirred, just beyond reach. A chilling realization hit the thing behind the door. Wasn't just a threat, it was a dead end. The officer at the front, growing more agitated, advanced slowly. "If you're hiding something, now is the time to come clean." His voice bore the weight of authority, but his hand trembled ever so slightly. All at once, from the back of the hallway, a figure stepped into the light. It stumbled into view, disheveled and wild-eyed, a young man, a stranger yet somehow eerily familiar. His gaze swept across the room, landing on the daughter with an expression that sent an icy shock of recognition through her. "Help me!" he cried, voice raw with desperation. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." The room erupted into chaos. The officers drew their weapons instinctively, shouting commands, confusion sparking like fire. "No!" the stepmom cried, throwing her arms wide as if to shield this new arrival. "You can't let him in. He's the reason I had to protect you." "He's going to what? What is he going to do?" the millionaire shouted, panic rising. But the young man was drawing nearer, pleading, his eyes wild. "I just want to talk. I know things that can save her. You have to believe me." In that instant, the weight of every word hung heavy in the air, a promise and a threat twisted into one. The truth danced on the edge of the darkness, tantalizing and terrifying. Everything hinged on the decision they were about to make. Would they trust him? Or would they close the door on the hope of salvation? Questions spiraled high, everyone teetering on the brink of disaster, and a haunting thought crept in: what if this was a lie? Outside, the sirens wailed louder, drawing nearer as the room fell silent, and staring eyes bore into the young man. The seconds stretched infinitely, uncertainty pulsing like a living thing. What had he come to reveal? And more terrifyingly, what would they do next? Suddenly, the tension shattered like glass. The young man's words hung in the air, thick with urgency, as the reality of the situation sank in. The officers shifted uncomfortably, their fingers twitching on their weapons. "Stay back," one commanded, stepping in front of the frightened daughter. "Who are you and what do you know?" The young man shook his head in desperation, sweat glistening on his forehead. "You don't understand. I only came here to warn you." His eyes darted between the stepmom and the girl. The stepmom, now a trembling mass of emotions, screamed, "No. You can't trust him. He's part of it." "Part of what?" The millionaire's voice rose in frantic disbelief. There was a desperate need for clarity gnawing at him. What had this young man done? What did she mean by it? The officer moved closer, flashlight beam narrowing onto the young man's face. "Explain yourself." I'm here to stop whatever she has started," he stammered, glancing back at the stepmom with horror. "She thought she was protecting you, but shut up," she shouted, her voice breaking. "You don't know what you're talking about." Panic ballooned in the millionaire's chest. "What did she start? What are you hiding?" The air thickened with fear. The daughter clutched her father's arm tighter, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Mom, please." For a moment, fleeting silence reigned, everyone caught in an agonizing web of uncertainty. "Listen to me," the young man implored, stepping boldly forward. "I know about the deal. The money, the threats, everything." His voice cracked, urgency seeping through each syllable. "She did something terrible because they were coming for you. I can help you if you let me." The stepmom lunged, arms flailing, panic meriting her movements. "No. You can't let him in. He'll ruin everything." But at that moment, She let her guard down, her earnest desperation leaching out, revealing something deeper beneath the surface. "What have you done?" the millionaire whispered, the realization striking him like a lightning bolt. "What are you mixed up in?" The young man's eyes, filled with desperation, locked on the millionaire's. "It's bigger than you think. You have no idea who you're dealing with." The officers, reluctant to trust the chaos unraveling before them, began speaking in hushed whispers. The youngest among them gestured toward the corridor. "Someone should check the rest of the house. If there's danger in here." "Wait!" snapped the officer in charge, raising a hand to halt the suggestion. "We need to contain the situation first." But that was already too late. The front door rattled, and a figure slammed against it, sending shivers of dread and disbelief through the room. "Open up. We know you're in there," a voice demanded, laden with authority yet dripping with menace. Chaos erupted again. The officers swung into action, weapons drawn, shouting orders. The young man's face paled, his eyes darting toward the door as if it alone could bear the weight of his dread. "If they find him," spoke the stepmom softly, fear cracking through her bravado. "If they find out what you've done, then we all die," he hissed back, panic gripping their exchanges tighter than a vice. Suddenly, the daughter watched her mother, realization hitting her like cold water. "What do you mean find out? Mom, what are you hiding?" A quivering lump formed in the millionaire's throat. He turned toward the door, the pounding getting louder, as questions began to spiral out of control. What had they all gotten into? And with each beat, the unsettling truth lingered just within reach. The doorframe loomed tall, threatening yet inviting. What horrors rested just beyond that threshold? More importantly, would the secret spilling from their lips be enough to save them? The sirens neared as fear clawed through every heart, and the young man looked back at the millionaire. "We have to make a choice. Fast." The countdown began. Would they betray their fears or be swallowed whole by the darkness knocking at their door? The pounding against the door intensified, each strike resonating like a funeral drum in the pit of their stomachs. Time felt suspended, hanging in that fragile moment of silence before the storm. The young man glanced fearfully at the millionaire, his breathing ragged. "Are you going to let them in? Do you really think that's the answer?" he pleaded. "They're not here to help." "Then what do you suggest?" The millionaire shot back, his eyes flashing with a mixture of panic and rage. "What do you know that I don't?" "Enough!" shouted the stepmom, her voice laced with desperation. "You all need to be quiet. If they hear us talking about this, there's no way out." The daughter, caught between her mother's hysteria and the young man's fervent warnings, felt her heart race. They were spiraling into madness, and she had no clue where it would end. Suddenly, the door splintered. The officers roared as they piled into the living room, guns drawn and faces tight with determination. "Hands up! Everyone!" the lead officer commanded, eyes darting from the young man to the stepmom, who had frozen in place. "What is going on here?" The young man instinctively moved in front of the millionaire and his daughter, ready to shield them from whatever terror was about to unfold. "You're in danger. Listen to me. Get back!" one of the officers barked, leveling his gun at him. "Do not make this worse." But the young man wouldn't be dissuaded. "You don't understand. They're looking for her. She's the key." The millionaire felt the world tilt on its axis. "What do you mean by that?" "Mom!" cried the daughter, tears streaming down her cheeks. "What's happening?" "Shut up!" The stepmom's shout echoed through the room, as she fell back against the wall, breathing heavily. It was like watching a dam about to burst. "No! This ends now," the lead officer yelled, taking charge of the chaotic scene. "We need to know who's involved and what this deal is. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to protect you." But as the tension rose, the atmosphere thickened with unspoken truths, everyone in the room bearing the weight of their own secrets. With fierce resolve, the young man stepped closer. The money they were coming to collect. It was supposed to be a simple buyout, but it spiraled. Things got out of control, and she did something horrible. At that moment, the room fell into a deafening silence. All eyes turned to the stepmom, a mix of accusation and confusion swirling around. The officers exchanged worried glances, feeling the palpable tension. "Mom, you did what?" The daughter gasped, each word breaking under the weight of betrayal. "They were going to take everything from us." The stepmom cried. "I had to protect you. I didn't want it to come to this." The officers pressed, their pens poised, ready to hear the sordid tale. "What did you do?" The lead officer asked again, a note of urgency creeping into his voice. An icy chill swept through the room. The stepmom hesitated, her eyes darting around, scanning for escape routes as the truth filled the air like poison. I made a deal, one I thought I could control, but I was wrong. They're ruthless, and they won't stop until they have what they want, no matter the cost." The door rattled violently as the prowler outside grew impatient. The pounding grew louder and more erratic, amplifying the chaos inside. "We're running out of time," the young man urged, glancing at the window where shadows danced in the flickering light. "I warned her, but she wouldn't listen." "What do we do?" The daughter's voice trembled, a mix of fear and determination lighting up her eyes. "Listen to him," the millionaire shouted, desperation spilling from his voice like a dam burst. "We need to act now." The sound of sirens drew nearer, but that wouldn't deter the danger just beyond the door. Everyone held their breath, the room buzzing with unspoken fear and consequence. What had they truly unleashed? And could they face whatever would come through that door not only as a family but as survivors? The moment was now. They had to decide: fight or flee, truths or lies. Would anyone dare to embrace the heavy burden of reality? The air pressed in around them, suffocating with urgency and desperation. Each heartbeat thundered in their ears, a drum of dread. The young man took a step back, trying to shield the millionaire and his daughter behind him. He felt the weight of their fears heavy on his shoulders, but he refused to buckle. "Listen. We need to barricade the door. There's no other choice," he shouted, pulling at a nearby table to use as a makeshift shield. The millionaire blinked, and for a moment, he seemed caught in a web of disbelief. "Yes. Now." The stepmom's eyes darted. "Or we're dead." The lead officer, still tense and surveying the room, nodded. "You heard him. Everyone, lend a hand." They scrambled into action, a flurry of frantic movements. The daughter grabbed a chair, pushing it against the door as the young man and the officers stacked the table. The pounding continued, a relentless reminder of the threat just outside. Each thud shook the foundation of their makeshift fortress. "What did you do?" The officer pressed again, glancing at the stepmom, her face pale with desperation. The daughter stared at her mother, searching for answers through a veil of anger and confusion. "I thought it was just business," the stepmom pleaded. "They promised everything would be fine if I just signed." Her voice faltered, recognition dawning in her eyes as the reality enveloped them like a thick fog. "But it wasn't fine. They wanted blood, and I assumed I was naive." "Naive?" The daughter echoed bitterly, her voice sharp with betrayal. "You endangered us all." The stepmom flinched, the accusation hitting her like a blow. "I had no choice. I was trying to keep us safe." Her voice cracked, revealing the panic beneath the surface. The young man stepped in, trying to quell the rising tide of emotions. "This isn't the time for blaming each other. We need a plan. We can't let them in," he said, trying to keep his own voice steady. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, followed by harsh whispers. The lead officer's expression hardened. "They're here." We can't let them know we're inside or they'll come in shooting. Please. The daughter's voice trembled, faith fading fast. What do we do? At that moment, the stepmom's phone buzzed in her pocket, a sharp sound that sliced through the tension like a knife. All eyes were on her as she pulled it out, her hand shaking. It's them, she whispered, pale lips barely forming the words. The screen lit up with a chilling message: meet us at the back or face the consequences. The weight of the decision hit everyone like a freight train. Don't answer. We can't, they're playing with us. The young man urged, urgency fueling his words, but the stepmom's eyes flashed with something dark, a mixture of fear and unyielding resolve. It's my only chance to make this right. No. The daughter screamed, her voice rising in panic. You can't trust them. I'm not asking for permission. The stepmom turned, making for the back door, but the lead officer grabbed her shoulder. Wait. You put us all at risk. He could feel the turbulence surging, the crescendo of chaos threatening to explode. Another loud crash shook the door, and splinters of wood flew in as the frame began to buckle. The young man's heart raced. They were running out of time. Mom, please don't do this. The daughter cried, tears welling up in her eyes, forcing her to confront her mother's almost reckless decision, but the stepmom's eyes hardened with a mix of resolve and desperation. I have to. And then, in an instant, she broke free, moving towards the back in trance as every fiber of the young man's being screamed for her to stop. The daughter clutched his arm, terrified. Do we let her go? I can't let her face them alone. If we don't act now, we're all finished. The words spilled out before he could reconsider. Before they could react, the officers moved in, trying to re-establish control over the situation. But in their hearts, each knew this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the truth that could tear them apart. They had to make a choice. Would they follow her into the darkness and confront the danger lurking just beyond those walls, or would they stand guard and hope for salvation? As the front door finally gave way with a crash, the shadowy outline of men loomed in the doorway, their motives hidden beneath the guise of authority. The moment had come to face what lay ahead, and for better or worse, they would have to confront their own demons. But could they do it as a family, or would betrayal rip them apart at the seams? In the suffocating silence, seconds felt like hours, and the weight of their choices pressed down hard. What awaited them beyond that threshold? And would they emerge broken or united? The chaos erupted like a tempest. With the front door splintering and menacing silhouettes pouring in, the millionaire's heart raced. The tension surged around them, thick and suffocating, each breath a struggle against the weight of impending doom. Stay back. The lead officer shouted, weapon raised, eyes darting between the arriving threat and the frightened family huddled together. The sound of chaos was alarming, shouting commands mingling with confusion. It felt like a nightmare spiraling out of control, but through the clamor, a familiar pleading voice reached out. Please, you have to believe me, the young man interjected, stepping between the actor and the encroaching figures. I'm here to stop this. She's done terrible things, but it can be fixed. The stepmom's face twisted with panic. You don't know what they want. They'll tear us apart. Her words tumbled out in heated breaths, revealing the turmoil beneath her fierce facade. The millionaire's mind spiraled. How had it come to this? Betrayal seared through him, each revelation shaking the very foundations of their family. Mom, don't. The daughter wailed, her voice laced with desperation, a cry echoing through the chaos. She turned, eyes wide with horror. Please, we can't trust him. Get in line. The officers screamed. Everyone, hands up. The steps echoed louder, ruthless determination nearing. The shadows pressed in, inevitable and terrifying. Like a spirit of retribution, they moved forward, taking control of the room, demanding authority. The millionaire felt the walls close in, memories of better times flooding his vision, shoving against the stark, painful reality. But it was too late. Just as the stepmom's hand grazed the back door, she hesitated, fear flickering across her face. "I can fix this," she shouted, a fragile timbre replacing her previous defiance. "You'll understand if you just let me go." "No!" the daughter screamed, leaping forward, her body trembling, hurt seeping into every fiber of her being. "You can't leave like this. Don't put yourself at risk. Stop," one officer ordered as he prepped to approach her, but it was too swift. The stepmom threw open the back door, confronting whatever darkness awaited her. The others froze, every eye locking on the unpredictable scene unfolding. "It's my only way out. To save us," she cried, tears streaming down her face, but within that frenzied plea, a flicker of clarity passed between mother and daughter. The love that had been twisted with pain ebbed back for a moment, and a deeper understanding broke through the chaos. "Mom, turn back. Mom!" the daughter shouted, pushing through the chaos, angry tears cascading down her cheeks. "You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to make it worse." Everything held its breath, the tightening knot within the millionaire's chest squeezed harder at her words, the layers of fear and hope mixing thickly. With newfound velocity, the stepmom paused. You're right," she stammered, her bravado cracking. The men outside pressed closer, their determined faces pushing through the dark, forming a wall of fists. The young man interjected, urgency dripping from his voice. "We can do this. Together. We stand left or right. Accept the chaos, or we become victims together." The officers began signaling towards one another, eyes darting, coiled like springs ready to strike. "Mom, please," the daughter's eyes shimmered. "Let us. We can face this as a family." Tears streamed down the stepmom's face. "But I thought protecting you meant Mom." "You were wrong." The daughter's voice cut through the despair. "Trust me. Trust us." Minutes felt like hours. That fleeting spark of family united surged, breaking shadows of fear. The stepmom's resolve melted, replaced by fear and vulnerability. "What do we do?" she whispered, her voice low and trembling. "Stay together," the millionaire shouted, heart pounding furiously, resolve echoing in his chest. "We face this together, or we don't face it at all." All eyes turned to one another, a fleeting exchange of determination igniting within them. The door crashed open. Further, spilling light from the outside as men pushed into the room armed with authority. Hands up. Pulses raced, and moments flashed, but they would not succumb to despair. "Behind us," the millionaire commanded, pulling his daughter and stepmom back, forming a barrier. With one final push, the officers moved in unison, swiftly intercepting the figures emerging from the doorway. Handcuffs clasped, voices raised in authoritative command, they took control of the situation, diffusing chaos with unwavering strength. And as the adrenaline faded, as the last scream subsided into silence, realization pooled in the room. They defaced the darkness together. An unspoken bond settled between them, a fragile thread woven by resilience. "Mom," the daughter whispered, trembling, reaching out for the woman who had both wronged and loved her fiercely. The stepmom crumbled, sinking to her knees as emotions flooding her were too strong, unraveling every fear hidden deep within her soul. "I'm so sorry," she wept, trusting that this was just the beginning of rebuilding what had been broken. "Together, Mom," the daughter said, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, their connection a fragile yet powerful thread against the storm they had weathered. But as officers began to usher them outside to safety, the young man leaned closer, urgency firing across his brow. "I can help you, let me. There's more you need to know." Each heart pounded fiercely against the backdrop of the reality they would rebuild, a healing not yet complete but shimmering just within reach. As shadows faded into the dawn, they finally stepped forward, a family willing to fight not just against the chaos outside but for each other. Now, a tough road lay ahead, illuminated by the flickering hope of love rebuilt. So, if you've loved this wild ride, you need to subscribe immediately. This is the moment to show your support and help us keep bringing these heart-stopping stories to life. Smash that like button now, make sure you don't miss what's coming next. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this gripping conclusion. You know, true fans never let the story end here. Show everyone just how much you care.